Delighted that first time probably in the history of Britain that we have British parliamentarians, British legal solicitors and barristers here, eminent people representing political parties, lawyers from Pakistan. The next lawyer I'm going to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, he knows what it's like fighting for justice and equality and fairness. He will not shy away from a fight if it's on principles, on legal basis, come what may. He has won many victories in court and stands and is a committed lawyer, well respected in Pakistan across party. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Babar, Awan.
Alhamdulillah ala ni'matihi walaya wa usalli wa usallim ala hadi al-mabusul amin sayyidi waladi Adam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Honorable lawyers, barristers, solicitors, ladies and gentlemen, and the lady Vice President of the Law Society, my brothers, friends from Pakistan, and my friends, those who practice here. It was not me who got late. If you will talk to the host, he'll tell you, why was I late? We are the lawyers who never afford to be late in the courts and never afford to be late in the Friends. And the Friends, for me, has precedence. That's why when I was in the cabinet, I resigned as the federal minister who was holding more than 3 portfolios, and I came back to my fraternity. So you are my priority. I just cannot forget that. Number 2, I'm very touched with the sentiment which is shown by the lawyers, barristers, and the solicitors over here and the Law Society for holding this tribute meeting in the honor of those lawyers who laid their lives for the rule of law in the province of Balochistan, in particular in the Quetta city. If I'm permitted to, I'll give a little rundown of the facts, but I'll go to that later. Let me say a few things which may be a little information to your good selves. And I'm sorry if I do not call the name of Chiku Bhai. I won't be able to go to Pakistan safely. He loves us, and we and so many other friends, they love him. In fact, the killings of the lawyer is a scheme somehow. I do not blame any particular section of the society, but so far, the number which I have for you, in Pakistan, the known number exceeds 500 lawyers slain throughout the country on different names. Sometimes it is the collateral damage. For instance, the president of Gujranwala Bar Association, he was coming out after doing a trial of a murder case. He was slain. So that is the type of collateral damage lost to the lawyers community. Number 2 is the targeted killing. That reminds me of the May 12th, when 5 lawyers, they were burnt alive in the province of Sindh, in their chambers. And I had the honor, I think Mr. Khalid Ranja was then member of Pakistan Bar Council. I was the only lawyer who gave 500,000 out of my pocket for the families of the slain lawyer. Not a penny was given by the government. Not a penny as a compensation. I do not see the compensation or monetizing of the life of a person. Nobody can give me the price of my left hand's little finger's nail if I lose it, God forbid, or anybody else loses it. There's no price for the life. But of course, that the consolation at least to the families, and a little help goes. In Pakistan, I will say, there are 2 types of family which are dependent upon the life. Wife and the children, number 1. And there are ailing, aging parents as well. Because we have a very strong family system and nobody can imagine and think of lodging parents somewhere. And everybody loves because, according to our faith, the paradise lies under the feet of the mother. That is the saying of the Holy Prophet. That's why we are very touchy about it. There are 2 types of lawyers in Pakistan who leave behind. There are 2 types of families. One, the lawyers with a little practice, those who make their bread and butter. It's very difficult in Pakistan to flourish as a lawyer. And once a lawyer from my area, which is Potohar, said that we grow like cactus from under the big mountains and we come up. It is not easy over there, the type of practice we have. And then there's another category of political killing of the lawyers, and then still another killing is the sectarian killing of the lawyers. But that all brings us to one point, that we are losing the most educated portion of the society, which is self-employed and has no reservation to fight for the civil rights of the people and civil liberties of the countrymen and the political rights of the societies, those segments which are downtrodden, which they cannot raise their voice for themselves. So this loss cannot be compensated, but I'm very sorry to hear that the government of Balochistan and as well as the federal government, like all other governments in all the other places, did nothing so far for the families of the poor lawyers. The figure which I asked for my team which works for my TV show, and they gave me, which I reconfirmed as well, that I reconfirmed it from the Quetta Bar Association and the friends working over there. The total number of the slain lawyers is 61. Some televisions have shown it as 45, other 49. Some have said that it crosses 50. 61 is the total number. Why the number is underestimated and undercounted and given? Maybe there's no fault of anybody, but the number is given shorter than the actual number of the lawyers. It's lesser than the actual number of the lawyers just because of one reason. Because there are a lot of young lawyers who work with us. When we senior lawyers go to the courts and work in the chamber, they work with us for their bread and butter. Right from the first year of their admission in LLB's program, be it 3 years program of the London University's external, or it is a local university's 5 years program. So they are not counted as lawyers, but unfortunately those were the lawyers in making. वो जिस तरह किसी ने कहा ना कि फूल कुछ दिन तो बहारे जहाँ फिजा दिखला गए, जो बड़े हैं हम लोग, हसरत उन गुंचों पे है जो बिन खिले मुरझा गए. Those are not counted. Let me correct this number for the press and my brother lawyers and sister lawyers over here. Then another aspect which is equally important is that after every killing of a lawyer, that they are now being killed for the last about 5 years, they are being killed en masse. The kachari, the court premises, the old ballets like trial places in Pakistan, they are attacked. And hundreds of lawyers and litigants they are injured, and few dozens they lose their lives. Twice this had happened in Islamabad, which is the federal capital. Every time it was said that it's a safe city, and it's not going to be happening again to the last fraternity. But when I talk about the administration over there, which didn't do much for the protection of the lawyers' fraternity, I cannot forget the role of my judiciary as well. We had great sacrifices given for the independence of the judiciary, but whenever the lawyers in great and mass lawyer killing happens, nothing is done. No notice and absolutely nothing. This time I spoke to some of the senior office bearers in the Supreme Court, not of the Bar Association. I do not want to name anybody. And I told them the same thing. The day it happened, I went to them and I said, for God's sake, how many more we are going to mourn? How many more we are going to cry for? How many more we are going to pick on our shoulders and lay them in the rest? Please do something. And there was a time, I tell you, there was a judge, Awan. He had very small children. He was from Gujarat area, Punjab, and was from a very humble family. He lost his life as a judge. He was sitting in the court. And now the eldest boy is 8.5 years right now. What was done for him? Nothing, I'm sorry to say that. So this was one portion of our life over there. The second is that the very appointment in judicial hierarchy, when I was the law minister, we tried with the consultative process, which was very large throughout the country, and Mr. Khalid Ranja was part of that, S.M. Zafar Saab was part of that. Raza Rabbani, who was the chairman of the Senate, was part of that, and many more very distinguished lawyers like Wasim Sajjad, they were also part of that. And then we created a collegium for the first time in history. 2 years back, I was invited by 65 bar associations of India. I addressed in length and breadth of India, the different bar associations. They were very happy because the lawyers and their organizations like Bar Council and the Bar Association have absolutely no role and input in the appointment of the judges. We got that place in that collegium, which is the constitutional collegium right now. But I'm very sorry to say, still we have not been able to make any difference, which is noteworthy from the point and perspective of the litigant, which is the most important person, who is the third pillar of our legal fraternity. If he's not there, I won't be there. If I'm not there, judge is not going to be there. So that needs to be done. Another aspect is that the number of lawyers who are given tickets, all the seats in the houses is very less. Like the real representative of the offshore Pakistanis, don't take it in any other sense. Samandar Paar ka tarjuma maine kiya hai, Nurdu. These friends, they do not have any representation, meaningful representation, I mean. Their name is there. On their name, few people, they go there, they sit there, they do what they wish to, and they come back empty-handed, neither given anything to public or the lawyers' fraternity, nor anything else which is to be delivered to them. So I think this is the time when we have to rethink about the proportional representation of communities like lawyers in the houses where the most important job which is done is only one: the legislation, making the law, amending the law, amending the constitution. I'm very thankful to Almighty and very proud of being a lawyer from one amongst you, like you, and always for you. When I became the law minister, there was a huge exercise of carrying out the amendments in the constitutions. And in my era, with the help of everybody who associated with us, those amendments culminated eventually in reorientation of many things which are taken out by dictatorships from the constitution, and we enacted the 18th constitutional amendment as well as 19th constitutional amendment. I give you an example of the results. People say some people do not like these amendments, and there's nothing on this planet of Earth ever in the history of the mankind where 100% is consensus and everybody would agree. It's the same in the case of 18th and 19th constitutional amendment of the Constitution of Pakistan. But I give you one example only. We were talking about the great lawyers who laid their lives for us and for the nation and for the peace of the world. And for the peace of the world. I'll come back to this, to the peace of the world as well. Before Musharraf's era, that total number of the budget amount to the province of Balochistan, where there's 6.5 million population, and it is 72% of the total demography of Pakistan. The government of Balochistan's website says it is 8 million. Let me agree with that generously, because since long there's no exercise of recounting all of us. So, taking that into consideration, for the first time, the budget was taken to 18 billion a year. In one fiscal year, 18 billion Pak rupees. When the last government came in power, the budget left the last year was 128 billion. Now it exceeds 300 billion budget for 8 million people. If these resources are directed towards the people uplift and alleviation of the poverty, I think this is enough money for those people. Similar is the case of the FATA. FATA got many promises from the world over. When we were termed as allies against the evil excess of those who do not like our way of living, who do not like our courts and the constitution, and those who want to bring their type of thinking into the rule of Pakistan and the world over. That was the point of time when the America promised with us Aussies. The other allies also made a lot of huge and generous promises, but those promises are still promises, even after passage of about 18 years. One thing more, when I was talking of the world peace, I'll talk about two things very shortly with your permission. One is the problems in the Indian occupied held Kashmir. The most recent one which shocked me is right now, I came here after about 8 years in this area. When I was coming, I said to Barrister Islam, who was accompanying me, I said, Barrister Islam, is this the area where there was an office of Amnesty International? Because I came once, I pleaded one case on their behalf in Pakistan, and I came once for another case to their office. And he said yes. I was shocked to know yesterday that the people from Amnesty International, they had been booked for sedition and terrorism and PODA and PRODA, all sorts of offences by the Indian government, and the result is closure of the offices of Amnesty International, not only in Indian held and Indian occupied portion of the Kashmir, rather throughout the lands of India. Those offices reportedly, according to the media, stand closed and they have been banned. And abandoned, rather, the Amnesty, where they could not work, they have left those offices. I feel sorry about the world peace when I think like this. The atrocity, the pellet guns, the faces decomposed, deformed, 14-year girls. Nobody's left out. Another portion of it is when there are occurrences like few here and in Paris and elsewhere, the world is shocked. We are also shocked. No Pakistani was born in a cave. No Pakistani is raised in the nest of a tree. Everybody has life like civilized people have lives elsewhere. But I get a second shock, like I got in one on the closure of the offices of Amnesty International. I get the second shock. The world community stands together, and I feel good about it, proud about it, that all the leaders of the Europe, they get out when there's an attack in France. But when there's en masse killing of 61 brothers, lawyers of Babar Awan feels sorry. It is single column news world over. If we are partners in this war, which we are, if we stand together for our values, which we do separately, everywhere, whatever the values we have, if I put them in juxtaposition, this juxtaposing gives me just one lesson. And the lesson is, ladies and gentlemen, that these values for more than 90% resemble to each other. More than 95% resemble to each other. There are only a few points where you see the difference. But this dichotomy, when this thing A happening in the area X, this is the result, and the thing A happening in area Y, the result is not that way. The world needs to learn the lesson that enemies of the peace, whosoever they are, they work indigenously or they are hired. They work for their ideology or for somebody else. I do not know, because I am not an investigator. That's not my job. But as a humble lawyer of your fraternity, I have no reservation in saying that we need to finish double standards in the global issues and in global policies. Do I have 1-2 more minutes or? Okay, sir. And your permission to, you are in majority, you can just dislodge me. Say no and I'll go. Now, there are two important issues with reference to the world today which I must tag. This is a very distinguished place where I'm speaking, where you're sitting right now. It's a very apt moment to say those things. One, if we look back at our sweet home, which is the mother planet Earth, 30 years, 35 years back, it was a much safer place. coming over here, having immigration, going elsewhere, having immigration, getting visa, everything was much easier. I'm sorry to say this, ladies and gentlemen, we made it difficult for ourselves. I give you one macro example. I will not go to the micro reasoning at all. And the macro reason is that we are starting, 30 years back we started rather. Pick and choose the systems for the people of the world. This land should have a king, this land should have a dictator, and this land should have a democracy. If we decide and start believing the people, those who we call that they are our allies, I'm sure they'll start making good decisions, right decision in the right direction from the core of my heart. And they'll stand behind that with the core of their hearts, I tell you. That solves 80% of the problem. That solves the major problem. That solves the entire problem rather in few cases. And the last thing which I will say is, this rest assured, you represent Pakistan and you represent UK as well. You are the lucky ones. So let me assure you that every single thing in Pakistan is in order. Where there is a lapse, I'll point out and then leave the rostrum. Our strategic assets, our strategic relations, our strategic interests, everything is in right direction, let me assure you. If I was not under oath, I would have talked much because as the federal minister I took an oath. Certain things I just cannot say. Let me assure you everything is in order. And therefore, the Pakistan's inorderly economy, all the governance, all the impression may be about any other segment or the portion of the society or working somewhere, that is going to be in order in the near future. Because we are on the right path. There's a constitution in the country, there are elections, and the governments will be elected. Sometimes people will elect a bad government. Next time they will not vote for that, I'm sure. That's the experience of the past and the recent past. And those who will not deliver to the people of Pakistan, they also need to be punished through the courts. So I think if that approach is adopted by all of us, and the world forums, like you are a global forum, at least you know, you represent two different continents, two different distance living nations. So here are the people, those who can bridge these processes of thoughts, and wherever there's a double standard to be made, point out without any reservation. I say to all of you, thank you very much for this rostrum which is given to me. Thank you for it very much for coming here. Thank you very much for remembering the lawyers. Thank you very much for remembering the brothers from the Quetta. And I thank you very much and say in the last that the friendship between these two countries may live long, and Pakistan Zindabad.
Keep watching TV 7 at 6. देखते रहिए.